Welcome to Numbers Never Lie. It's the best 60 minutes of your day alongside the great Jemele Hill. I'm the above average Michael Smith, and as usual, we got an excellent show ahead. Coming up, should Tom Brady be mad at Bill Belichick? Should Michael Vick have been mad at Riley Cooper? And should Browns fans just go back to being mad?
Also, the winningest coach in college football history, Hall of Famer Bobby Bowden, will stop by. But our number one topic today is the NFL dropping the hammer on Josh Gordon. The number in the news for Josh Gordon is 16. He'll miss every game for the Browns this season after the NFL upheld his suspension for violating the league's substance abuse policy. Gordon is a repeat offender, but he appealed the suspension and hoped for leniency. Here is the statement that Josh Gordon had in response to his suspension. He said, "I'd like to apologize to my teammates, coaches, the Cleveland Browns organization, and our fans. I am very disappointed that the NFL and its hearing office didn't exercise better discretion and judgment in my case. I would like to sincerely thank the people who have been incredibly supportive of me during this challenging time, including my family, my agent, my union, my legal team, and the Cleveland Browns staff." Mike, is this suspension more about Josh Gordon or the NFL's substance abuse policy in itself?
All right, so you and I have been going back and forth about this for the last day.
We have.
And I understand the irony, the inherent irony of Josh Gordon criticizing somebody else's judgment and discretion. I get that. But to me, this conversation and this issue should be more about how screwed up the NFL's substance abuse policy is in 2014 as it relates to discipline, as opposed to Josh Gordon screwing up once again. Because I believe he actually had a strong case. I get that he has lost the benefit of the doubt and he got himself in stage 3, but the results of this test were questionable because of the inconsistency of the samples and the relatively low threshold for a positive test compared to WADA, Major League Baseball, and the military. So for me, we can agree that Josh Gordon has made some poor decisions going back to college and in the NFL. But we can also, I think we can agree, given that I think 13 of 32 NFL teams reside in states where marijuana is legal for medicinal use. 23 states overall have legalized marijuana for medicinal use. Another 2 states have legalized it for recreational use. So at this point, we need to step back and say, okay, what exactly did he do wrong relative to the general attitude toward the country? Times change, and I think this policy needs to change with it.
Was he not aware of the rules?
Yes.
Was this not collectively bargained?
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, that's the end of the discusure. All right?
Well, that's on you. I mean, I'll just talk to myself.
But here's the thing. Everything you said about the policy is true, but I just feel like you're using a really bad example to make a great case. Josh Gordon is not the one that people need to be holding up as the example that the marijuana rules need to be re-examined in the NFL, okay? He is just one of 4 players to be suspended for an entire season for substance abuse. That in itself lets you know how difficult it is to get suspended for this issue. You talked about
you have to be a repeat offender.
I told you once, told you twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. At some point, it's on you. And despite whatever threshold was in his system, knowing you in stage 3, why? Just why? Why were you even in the situation to make it even a possibility, knowing that the next time you took the tiniest misstep, you were sitting down for a year? That's on you, Josh Gordon. We can have all this discussion about the policy. That's fair. Tell you what, next time when the players sit down at the bargaining table, you need to put this in there.
Yes.
That's a discussion for then. That is not a discussion for now, because this is about...
You're being way too literal, because you're sitting up here
I'm going by somebody who has a repeated history of not doing the right thing, and I'm not making this dude a murder.
But you're not seeing the forest for the trees. I get that Josh Gordon screw up.
What I'm saying is a falling tree.
I get that Josh Gordon, I get that he has messed up. I get that his decision making is questionable to put himself in this position. But can't you step back and say, well, wait a second. He barely passed a very difficult test. And just hear me when
I'm sorry, it's difficult to follow the rules. All you got to do is stop smoking. That's it. It ain't that hard, Mike.
WADA's threshold for a positive test is 10 times higher than the National Football Leagues. Now, I thought about this earlier, and I told you this, and I said you can use it against me if you want. If the NFL's threshold were 10 times higher, Josh Gordon probably would smoke up until the threshold. I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that. And this is not me crying for Josh Gordon. You're right. He knew the rules. He knew the situation. And I understand why the secondhand smoke defense doesn't fly. However, it was as strong a case as I can recall when you're saying, hey, the B sample did not confirm the A sample, which was barely above the existing threshold to begin with. So in the grand scheme of things, though, and I'm not advocating for marijuana. I know nothing about the herbal.
It sounds like you're advocating for making excuses for somebody who needs to get their life together.
What I'm saying is you guys are talking about it like he's shooting up or like he's snorting cocaine or like he's doing something that society deems destructive and detrimental. Our president is saying it's no different than alcohol. The majority of the players are agreeing with him. We're evolving as a society as it relates to how dangerous this actually is.
The object of the exercise is not
You're persecuting him for something that that is legal in a lot of the country now.
Is illegal in the NFL. That's all we do. Period, point blank. You work at ESPN. Did we not both have to submit the drug test to work here?
We did.
Okay, I did.
The number in the news.
No, because that's how they do. Everybody, new employees.
The number in the. All right. They must have missed me. The number in the news for Josh Shaw is 4. I never peed in the cup. 4 days after spraining both of his ankles, USC defensive back Josh Shaw changed his story about how it happened. Yesterday, Shaw admitted he wasn't saving his nephew. I mean, I'm 10 years in. Does it still count now? Statute of limitations. So anyway, we still don't know. But Shaw has been suspended indefinitely. Shaw issued this statement yesterday, quote, on Saturday, August 23rd, 2014, I injured myself in a fall. I made up a story about this fall that was untrue. I was wrong enough to tell the truth. I apologize to SC for this action on my part. My USC coaches, the USC athletic department, and especially Coach Steve Sarkisian have all been supportive of me during my college career, and for that, I am very grateful, close quote. Sark added, quote, we are extremely disappointed in Josh. He let us all down. As I have said, nothing in his background led us to doubt him when he told us of his injuries, nor did anything after our initial vetting of his story. I appreciate that Josh has now admitted that he lied and has apologized. Although this type of behavior is out of character for Josh, it is unacceptable. Honesty and integrity must be at the center of our program, and I believe Josh will learn from this. I hope that he will not be defined by this incident and that the Trojan family will accept his apology and support him, close quote. Is USC also to blame for the Josh Shaw controversy, given how they handled things? Reportedly, they were suspicious to begin with, but ran with it anyway.
Yeah, I think, look, I know that they were trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. In their mind, he'd probably earned that benefit of the doubt, given what everyone said about his character, the type of young man he's been, how he has, up until this point, admirably represented that program. But if there was even the slightest little doubt, they needed, and it does depend on what those doubts were, they needed to sit down with him and say, okay, particularly when there have been other cases of which athletes have been doing something they shouldn't. By that I mean doing something like playing basketball or riding a motorcycle, doing something they shouldn't, injured themselves and been afraid to tell their team. They should have had a conversation with him and said, okay, is this how this story really played out? Or at the very least, if they were suspicious, they could have said, yes, he's injured. They are not obligated to tell the media why or with what.
Like Sark said, why would they be suspicious of a team captain, an upstanding and model student? Why would they be suspicious in the first place?
Because a red flag is a red flag.
But it's only a red flag because people started calling them. If nobody would have alerted USC that this may not have been how this went down, we'd still be believing the story. We'd still be lauding Josh Shaw because he had given. It's not like, contrary to Josh Gordon, it's not like he's a repeat offender. He gets the benefit of the doubt, even if you have doubts about his story, because of what a great player and person and student he had been up until this point. And I'm not here to persecute him or to sit up here and cast stones. We've all fallen short. But to me, the real tragedy in this is that a guy who apparently had a great reputation has now sullied that, has now compromised the trust that his university and the coaching staff had in him because he went so far. It'd been one thing if he would have just said, you know what, hey, I just tripped, I fell, or you know what, I slipped on a McDonald's bag and whatever, or slipped down the steps, something, okay? But to take it and to go so far and to do it a 180, maybe you were doing something you had no business doing, therefore the need for a defense attorney. Nah, it wasn't that. I was actually saving a 7-year-old from drowning. Why would anybody that you trust to begin with go to such great lengths. You understand what I'm saying? That I don't hold SC at fault at all. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's the sports information department trying to push a positive story without doing its due diligence. We all ate it up. I know I did.
Yeah.
We all ate it up, and we talked about it the next day.
Let me be clear here. Ultimately, the most, if not practically all of the responsibility is on Josh Shaw because, as you said, it wasn't. There are lies and damn lies, and he told a damn lie because the extremity of this lie, it has. If you don't know Josh Shaw the way that USC program does, it causes you to question everything. Because it's one thing to lie about your whereabouts, maybe about what you did, but then you're involving other people and you're using a child. And on top of that, you're telling a lie to make yourself look good,
That's why
knowing
it's so
you may
bad.
have been up to something that was no good.
And we've all made mistakes, and but this part is just, it was an unnecessary mistake. That's what I tell my kids. It's like, no matter what you did, just tell the truth, because the lie is oftentimes worse than what you actually did.
Cover up worse than the crime.
And it makes it hard to defend you going forward. For me, I appreciate what Sarkisian did. What he said is that he shouldn't be defined by this, and that people will forgive him, and he should be forgiven. This is not something that should ruin his remaining eligibility at USC. But
he's got to regain a lot of people's trust.
He has to regain a lot of people's trust, and I got to admit, it would be hard for me to trust him again, and therefore hard for me to trot him out to represent my program if I were in that position. As forgiving as I like to think I am, that's one of those things like, man, you embarrass us on a whole other level with this story by concocting this. So
I agree. All right, moving on to some professional football. The number in the news for Logan Mankins is 3 because he was the Patriots' third longest tenured player prior to getting traded on Tuesday. Only Tom Brady and Vince Wilfork had been around longer. Now, according to Bleacher Report's Jason Cole, Brady was, quote, not happy with the trade of his 6-time Pro Bowl offensive lineman who reportedly refused a pay cut. Does Tom Brady have a right to be upset about this trade?
At a certain point, he's got to be used to it, right? I mean, I get
that. Doesn't mean he likes it.
He doesn't have to learn to like it. He should have learned to like it by now.
Because he has no choice.
Well, that's part of it. Number 2 is he, above all people, should trust Bill Belichick, because while there are personal relationships that are at play here, and I'm not trying to just make them out like they're just assets or just names and numbers that can be moved. He had a relationship with Logan Mankins. He respected Logan Mankins. You mentioned it's him, Wilfork, and Brady in that locker room. So I get him being disappointed. But he was disappointed and shocked when they cut Logan Mankins before the season. He was disappointed and shocked when they traded Deron Branch to Seattle. He was disappointed and shocked when they didn't re-sign Wes Welker. All of these things have transpired, and yet I look up and I see the New England Patriots among the last few remaining teams every season. I see them since 2003 having won double-digit games every year, and the AFC East all but one season. And a lot of that has to do with Belichick knowing that he has a type of quarterback who can handle this type of change. And not to mention, it would be one thing if they just cut Logan Mankins in a cost-saving move. Now, maybe the cost-benefit wasn't where Belichick thought it should be, but they bring in a tight end in Tim Wright, who caught 73% of his targets last year, fifth highest among tight ends with at least 50 targets. A young, developing player. If he is their new Aaron Hernandez, then I think Brady will be more than happy with this transaction.
You've heard this phrase before: sick and tired of being sick and tired. He may have expressed his emotions after each one of those moves. As I said, doesn't mean he likes it. And as he gets older, I think in this part of his career, you have to actually give him more support, not less. I mean, at some point, Tom Brady,
How do you know he's giving him less?
Maybe did you not? If you take away your best offensive lineman, that's not adding.
I just named several times when they let go of good players and moved on. Maybe Belichick feels like the guys that are replacing Mankins are plenty good enough, and they needed another tight end.
Yeah, and also you're also taking away his top offensive lineman. After he has suffered a knee injury, of which most people look at Brady and know that he's been more skittish, understandably so since that injury. So he
don't need as much protection if you got another target to get the ball to.
I'm sorry. I thought the way it works is that quarterbacks needed more time to throw. And
but if you got to hold on to the ball because nobody's open, then sure. But all I'm saying is don't discount Timothy Wright.
I'm not discounting him.
He might be a good piece.
All I'm saying is Brady has only so many years left to play at an elite level. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me to take away better pieces for what's essentially an X factor. We know what Logan Mankins can do, okay? We know a little bit of what Tim Wright can do. We don't know if he's going to be the next Aaron Hernandez, but we do know Logan Mankins is a Pro Bowler. We do know he's probably the best lineman on the team. So what are you doing here?
what's best for the team.
How do we know that? If
I think we know that's what Bill Belichick does. And I think at this point, Tom Brady would trust. You don't have to think that Bill knows everything and he's never wrong. But at least we should know is that he's trying to put the team in the best position to succeed. I'm not being an apologist for Belichick. I'm just saying he wouldn't willingly take a step back. He wants to win as badly as Brady does.
Not to mention, if I'm Tom Brady, I look over at Peyton Manning, he's always getting more stuff. Always getting more weapons.
I'm sorry.
Always getting more weapons.
By more stuff, do you mean championship rings?
Oh, what I mean, and let's not forget. Do I have to? I hate to say when the last time they actually.
No, go ahead and say it.
Okay.
Say it.
All right.
Say it. No, go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say it.
Peyton Manning got a new defense.
Go ahead. No, when last time what? When last time what? When last time they won a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
So what? You about to say since Spygate?
No, I wasn't gonna say that.
No, that you were thinking.
No, I wasn't gonna say since Spygate. I was thinking the actual year because I don't hold.
But they've been twice.
Mm-hmm. Does Tom Brady have a right to be upset over Logan Mankins? And maybe they could actually close and win those Super Bowls if they kept some of their better players. The numbers say no, according to Pro Football Focus. Logan Mankins allowed Tom Brady to be sacked 10 times last season, which was tied for the most sacks allowed by any guard. Overall, Brady was sacked 40 times last year, the most since his rookie season.
Can I ask you a personal question?
What?
When the last time they tested you on that? I'm just curious. It's time for some numbers you need to know. The number you need to know for James Harden, the beard, is 36.8 because 36.8 is field goal percentage. It's the lowest of any player on Team USA this summer with the minimum of 15 shots. However, Jerry Colangelo, the boss of Team USA, says that Harden is the leader of this team, calling him a quote-unquote natural leader. And he says you can just kind of feel it and sense it. He's the one. Man, you know what? Early this summer, we were talking about him dissing Chandler Parsons and his supporting cast. But I'm buying this, man. I'm buying this maturation of James Harden. Now, if he can just lead himself to playing better defense.
I'm telling you.
Man.
That's part of being a leader, though, is sometimes.
That was an easy opening.
What?
I just went ahead about defense, and you ain't saying that about Kevin Love.
I'm going to let you live for right now. Because I still haven't forgot about that drug test comment, so don't worry about it. It's coming back.
You the one invited it.
The number you need to know for Kyrie Irving is $90 million. Irving and the Cavaliers began discussing his $90 million contract extension on July 1st, long before LeBron and Love seemed like a realistic possibility. Kevin Love, that is. But Dan Gilbert and David Griffin reportedly sold Irving on the extension with a plan to get LeBron and Love. I have to be honest, maybe it was he had much more faith. But if you're Kyrie Irving, considering all the losing that had gone on in Cleveland, when they told you that, would you really have been like, I'd have been like, yes,
well,
sure.
The $90 million certainly helps, too.
Of course.
A lot of guys turn on an extension the first opportunity they get to have it. But, look, it goes to show that there's probably conversations being had behind closed doors that would suggest that this is a possibility. Otherwise, they would not have presented it to him in the first place.
Yeah.
He should have said, well, don't worry about it. The number you need to know for Peyton Manning is $8,258. The NFL has fined Peyton $8,258 for taunting when he got in the face, as you see there, of Texan safety DJ Swearinger in Saturday's game. Now, Peyton did say that after Swearinger's hit on Wes Welker, it resulted in a concussion. He told Chris Mortensen, I accept the fine. It's money well spent. It is, because he was taking up for his guy.
I understand that, but I wonder if...
Not that Swearinger did anything wrong.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You take a look at that hit, and it was clear that, Swearinger, he didn't launch. Wes Welker was going to the ground, and unfortunately, that's a part of the position he plays. He's vulnerable to those kind of hits. So, if anything, there's nobody to be mad for, even though I understand you have to stick up for your guys sometimes.
Yeah, I think Welker's been cleared to travel, but not to play. He should take his time.
All right, the number you need to know for FedEx Field is 17 because Daniel Snyder told Comcast Sportsnet that the team has started the process of designing a new stadium to replace 17-year-old FedEx Field. 17 years. That's too old now.
I guess nowadays, it's a really awesome home field experience. But we can't talk about this without talking about the R words. They're going to give him a new stadium. He's probably going to get it, right?
Right.
He'll continue to get money poured into his pockets through fans, sponsorships, revenue, whatever. And it just goes to show, unless and until this man's pockets start to hurt, we might as well just drop this R words thing. I'm willing to fight the good fight, but it's a losing battle because he's going to keep getting money.
Speaking of losing, The number you need to know for Jerry Jones is 75-1 because that's the Cowboys' odds to win the Super Bowl this season. Maybe Jerry's beginning to realize that because he told a crowd yesterday that the Cowboys have a, quote, uphill battle this season and, quote, our backs up against the wall.
Okay.
But I thought they won with glitz and glamour, right?
Like hublots? Like hublot watches?
See, I don't know how to pronounce things I can't afford. So, Hublot.
Fair
Didn't
enough.
know that.
I like this, and I hope they have this mentality because, look, nobody expects much from the Cowboys. I mean, as you have said, 8-8 might be an accomplishment given how decimated they've been on defense. So if they take this attitude of like it's us against the world, we're not America's team, we're America's running joke. If they take that attitude and play with the aggression that we saw when they were fighting the Raiders, which I told you I liked, maybe they can win 9 games.
Maybe.
The number you need to know for Cam Newton is 0. Because there's zero doubt in his mind, he says, that he'll be ready for the season opener at Tampa after suffering a hairline fracture to multiple ribs during Friday's preseason game against the Patriots. Cam, for all the hits that he takes, did you realize he has not missed a start in his 3-year career?
That's exceptional when you consider his style. But I do worry about Cam more so this season, even though I think he's definitely made progress as a quarterback. I just don't see a lot of offensive weapons around him.
I think that Calvin Benjamin kid is going to be all right.
I think he will be eventually. It may take some time, but I just see this team really taking a step back this season.
All right, the number in the news for the Browns is 100-1. With Josh Gordon officially suspended for the season, the Browns are now 100-1 to win the Super Bowl. Back in May, after Johnny Manziel was drafted, one sportsbook had them as high as 30-1. But now Johnny is sitting, Gordon is suspended. Got a lot of people out there wondering, Jemele, if the Browns bubble has burst. But I'm here to tell you, Cleveland, Believeland, the land, be not discouraged. What did Emmanuel Sanders say the other day? It's a minor setback for a major comeback.
Okay.
I still believe in this team. I believe in the guy at the top, and I ain't talking about the owner. I'm not talking about Jimmy Haslam. I'm talking about the general manager, Ray Farmer. I believe in his long-term view. I believe in Johnny Manziel. Look, we knew Josh Gordon was going to get suspended for a while, right? Mm-hmm. They don't have a sexy receiving core. They still got a solid defense. They still have, I think Ben Tate can be a featured running back. They still got Jordan Cameron. It's about developing Johnny Manziel. Let's just call this a throwaway year, okay? Here's what Cleveland needs to do, and I know it feels like they've been doing this since '99, so they came back. But they got to build this thing the old-fashioned and patient way. This is not going to be an overnight success because the sins of this franchise are too great. I read something from Jason Garrett the other day that I thought was rather interesting. And for all the grief we give Garrett, he talked about building the Cowboys in the right way, and that you can't take shortcuts.
Mr. 8-8?
Let's not get sidetracked.
Okay.
He was talking about not taking shortcuts.
Mr. I haven't been to the playoffs?
Focus on the Browns. Stay
okay.
with me here. Focus on the Browns. So I'm simply saying I still believe in the direction of this team, even though there's no Josh Gordon this year. They weren't. Look, I thought they could contend for the playoffs this year. Probably was among the crazier things I've said. I still think they can be better and more competitive, and the key is to be patient and stay the course and not blow it up and hit the reset button like it's Madden and you're not happy with how your franchise mode team went. Well, can't treat the real thing like that.
I would agree with that. The difference, the good thing for them is that they do have a defense that should keep them in a lot of games this season. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, offensively, I do feel like they need to do a lot of retooling. Even though it's been said before that the Browns aren't interested in getting rid of Josh Gordon after this season, from a contractual standpoint, it's financially beneficial for them to hold on to him, considering what they signed him to begin with. But I guess right now, because there are so many questions at quarterback, Johnny's their future. They have to develop him. You're absolutely right. But as of right now, they don't have a true starter. You have Brian Hoyer on a week-to-week audition. You have a young kid trying to get up to speed. And so I'm just curious as where this will leave them at the end of the season. Yeah. I mean, if you're a Browns fan, even though you know in your mind Josh Gordon not being there is a huge deal, you know what it takes to develop and groom a young quarterback, I don't blame them for being a little bit dejected if they have a bad season.
There's still reason for hope. And maybe it'll be interesting to see how Josh Gordon's absence for the entire season plays into their thinking as it relates to when to play Johnny Manziel. Surprised you don't bring up the T word. Because if the Bills are bad and the Browns are bad, 2 top 10 picks.
Just saying, a lot of good quarterbacks going to be there next season.
Stop that, though. Josh Gordon suspended. Johnny Manziel sitting. Has the Browns bubble already burst? The numbers say yes, because looking at the Browns depth chart at wide receiver, Josh Gordon had 575 more receiving yards last year than the rest of Cleveland's wideouts combined. Overall, Browns quarterbacks completed less than 48% of passes when targeting receivers not named Josh Gordon last year.
It's going to be a rough year.
I love what Ray said, though. He said, look at the Super Bowl contenders from recent years. Have they had that bona fide, like, stud, crazy receiver? How many playoff games has Calvin Johnson won with all those yards? You know what I mean? It's about the team and the system.
Talk yourself on into it.
I'm trying.
Okay. The number in the news for Michael Vick is 11. The 11-year vet said diffusing the Riley Cooper situation is the best he's done as a professional athlete. He went on to say that he saved Cooper's career after video surfaced of his racist comments. Here's what he told Ian O'Connor. I just hope he's of my boldness to step out in front of the world and say what I said. And he appreciates what I did and understands the magnitude of it, because nobody else was going to step up and say anything. I could have said the same thing that 25 of my teammates were saying, and there was built up anger. A couple of things transpired since that I dislike, and I'll be honest with you, after he signed his contract, I sent him a text, and I never got a text back, and that made me feel a certain type of way. I'm not the type of guy who holds grudges. Now, since that article came out, Vick and Riley Cooper, they're, quote, all good, according to a Vick spokesman. Now, Mike, I think Michael Vick had every right to feel a certain type of way about the text snub. Here's the thing, and I know when Michael Vick did this, he probably wasn't looking to do it thinking there's going to be some kind of pat on the back later on down the line. Yeah. Right. He didn't do it for that. He did it because he wanted to keep that locker room together, and he knew it was in the best interest of the team. And as someone who is still, for a lot of people, in the process of gaining forgiveness. A lot of people haven't given Michael Vick a second chance. He knows what that feels like to be castigated by everybody, to have your sins on public display. So I think there was some sincere and genuine compassion for why he did it. However, all that being said, I don't blame him, especially given as an African-American man, for you to step in and support a white guy that just hauled off and said the N-word and everybody saw it. Yeah. That's going to cost you credibility in your own community in a lot of people's eyes, right? So given everything he put on the line to make that situation work, if there's one name in his phone that if that pops up on text, you better hit him within 5 seconds, because you owe that guy your career. Does Riley Cooper still have the productive year he had unless Michael Vick smooths the water? Does he get that big deal? So you darn right, when I see Michael Vick pop up on the iPhone, I'm hitting this dude right back.
All right, you're not declining that.
No.
Yeah, you're not screening that call. I got you. Or you returning that text. Listen, all valid points. When I read it, I was like, Michael Vick, people are going to criticize him for saying it because he's complaining, but then he says he doesn't hold grudges. However, he's right. I do agree that is the best thing Michael Vick has ever done, most significant thing, because it transcends football, as you just broke down. It's bigger than going to Green Bay and being the first guy to win in the playoffs there. It's bigger than the Michael Vick experience. This was a very, very much a teachable moment, and he took the lead on this. But I'm just saying, look, I feel like I'd be awfully hypocritical if I sat up here and chastised somebody for not returning a text. Like, I got so many things that I'm trying to work on. One of them is being more prompt, because I got this bad habit. Like, for instance, for some reason, people keep texting me from noon to 1. Like I'm not doing anything. And then I'll look at it and like, okay, I'll get back to them later. And next thing you know, later ends up being weeks. And I can't tell you how many texts I got on my phone that are unreturned, and people think I'm being rude, but it's really not intentional. You know, so I think
you have a hierarchy. Everybody has a hierarchy when it comes to text and phone calls. If your wife texts you, you will text her back during the show. Maybe not while we're on air. You'll wait till we go to commercial, correct?
Correct.
And obviously I'm not on her level. If I text you, you usually get back to me.
Maybe.
You get back to me. Don't try to front. Don't try to front for company. Don't try to front for company, okay? But so yeah, I mean.
But the most important part is they're all good now, right? They're all good. So it was a simple miscommunication or lack of communication. Well, they'll see each other tonight. Tonight's his first trip back to Philly, right?
Right.
It'll be all good.
One thing I thought was interesting in that quote, he said it was some incidents. He made it seem like it wasn't just a text.
I'm listening. Watch this.
All right. Did Michael Vick have a right to feel a quote certain type of way?
Like what? I'm on TV right now.
About Riley Cooper's text snub. I think you said yes.
No,
No, you're no.
It's like it's a text, man. It's like Michael Vick has not returned everybody's text.
But I bet
they didn't say. I
bet the important people he does.
Like if Tony Dungy texts him,
he's going to text him back. All right.
I'm know.
I said yes.
I'm good. It's over. It's water under the bridge, over the dam, wherever you like it.
The numbers say no because Vick had very little to do with Cooper's breakout season on the field last year. In Vick's 7 games, he targeted Cooper just 18 times with only 8 completions.
That's right.
Overall, only 11% of Riley Cooper's yardage came from Vick last season, while 81% came from Nick Foles. You think?
I bet you Nick Foles is his wallpaper. So we love all our guests on NNL, but every now and then we get a real special, sentimental guest. I was catching up with Coach Bowden during the break. All-time winningest coach Bobby Bowden, author of a new book called The Wisdom of Faith, in stores September 1st. Coach, I'm telling you, not ashamed to say, grew up a Florida State fan growing up in New Orleans. I had a Florida State starter jacket and the hat I used to wear to school every day. The high school teammate Telma Gardner played for you.
Oh, yeah.
This is how much of a Florida State fan I was. I made a bet with a buddy of mine who went to Notre Dame. So this was 93.
Yeah.
You guys went up to South Bend.
Yeah.
You guys lost, unfortunately.
Exactly.
I had to memorize a Notre Dame fight song. Huh. So it's okay. Y'all rebounded though.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
we lost the battle, but we didn't lose the war.
There you go.
That's
so it's really good to see you, Coach.
Yes,
thank you, man. It's good to see both of y'all.
Very good to see you. And I was telling him in the break, Florida State was actually my second favorite team. I'm from Detroit.
Yeah.
And most people who lived in Detroit, especially during the time when I was growing up, they were all Michigan fans.
Yeah,
we were all
I
Michigan
can imagine.
fans. Yes, all watched Michigan football. And I believe Florida State came to the Big House.
Oh yeah.
And put a whooping on Michigan. It was so serious. I was like, I got to start watching this thing. You know, Casey Weldon. I mean, it was that was some athleticism like I had never seen before.
One of the best games we ever played, really. It's just one of the best games we ever played.
It was really fantastic. And it was kind of odd because when you all went through some down periods, that there was a generation of college football fans who did not understand how dominant Florida State was. I mean, that's such a tough task.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever do this, but looking at that stretch of run, like through basically the entire 90s, Florida State was a top 3 team.
Yeah.
How difficult is that to accomplish now that you think about it, like it kind of in hindsight as you reflect?
Well, you know, it's one of those things that can't live forever. You know, we had 14 straight years, top 4 or 5 finishes, you know, and why it's happening, you don't realize it. Afterwards, somebody say, hey, do you know what y'all just did? You know, but it don't last, but your fans expect it to. They get mad at you when you go down and start going down.
Now, speaking of expectations, Jimbo Fisher, 45-10 in his 4 seasons, got the national title already after they beat Auburn, of course.
Yeah.
Can you kind of explain what kind of pressure he's going to be feeling to repeat? I mean, it's one thing to get the monkey off your back, but now you know they're back to where you had them before.
He'll feel pressure the rest of his life. Now Jimbo's used to that pressure. I've known him ever since he's a kid, you know, and he's been in pressure all his life, and he's handled it good, you know what? And but he's going to get a different kind of pressure now, simply because Florida State people expect him to do it every year. Look at right now. What are they expecting? Oh, you got to win it. You're favored to win it again. It's tough. It's tough to win those dadgum things 2 in a row.
To that end, he did a lot of research. He talked about researching Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and what it takes to repeat. Have you given him any advice? Does he lean on you? You guys keep in touch about dealing with the pressure of a post-national title season?
No, I haven't gotten involved at all. And the reason is, after coaching there 34 years, I always say when I leave, I'm going to leave. I'm not going to stay there and look over the shoulder of the next guy. And I can pull for him, and I watch him, and I pray for him, and everything else, But he's one of the sharpest guys one of the sharpest coaches I've been around. Hey, he don't need my advice.
Got a pretty good quarterback too.
Yeah.
I was going to say, speaking of pressure, especially lately, with Johnny Manziel, now with Jameis Winston, seeing the returning Heisman winner, having to go back to school and face that pressure. Obviously, Jameis Winston, I think it's fair to say, didn't have a great offseason between the investigation and Crabgate and all that. What advice would you have for him about how to handle the spotlight now being a Heisman Trophy winner and what comes with that?
I'd say, Jameis, those things you did last spring, quit. Don't do that anymore. You know what? Really, his success to me is going to be, does he learn the lessons of life? I did this, I shouldn't have done it. I'm not going to do it again. I did this, I shouldn't have done that either. I'm not going to do it again. I think that'll be the key. And I think he is sharp enough, and I think he has enough character about him that he won't do that anymore. I sure hope he don't, because that can get him.
34 years at FSU,
34.
57 years married.
57 coaching.
Coaching, excuse me.
65 married.
65 married. 34 at FSU, 57 coaching overall,
Yeah.
65 married.
Yeah.
Those are numbers that never lie.
Isn't that
That just
amazing?
show what kind of guy we're talking to right now. I'm telling you, man, I was a tomahawk chopping somebody back in the day.
That
I'll
makes
go back
me
with
proud.
Deron with the Jerry curl.
Oh, yeah.
That's what, you know,
Yeah.
Amp Lee, Casey Weldon, bar none. Good to see.
Hey, you got to have good players. We had them, didn't we?
You sure did. Got them back. Hey, thanks for the members, Coach. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
Take
Good to
care
see
of
you.
yourself.
Thank
And
you.
good to see you.
Good to see
Good luck
you.
with the book. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
man. Y'all take care of yourself.
It is time for some numbers you need to know. Way to cue me up. I appreciate
I'm
that.
professional.
You'll like this, the number you need
That's
to
why I didn't
know
have to drug test me. Go ahead.
for Johnny Jam Boogie is 0. Because Johnny Manziel has played in 0 NFL games, but he's still getting commercials like this one. His new Snickers commercial. Look at Johnny. You know, I always say that he's doing too much. This time he is doing too much in a good way. This is actually pretty funny. And I think the name is now going to stick. Johnny Jam Boogie. What do you got to say? No? You just going to move on?
The number you need to know for Aaron Rodgers is 4. Rodgers sported 4 pieces of denim along with backup quarterback Matt Flynn to a Packers luncheon. Were you the baddest man on the planet? Were you the best quarterback in football, with apologies to Peyton Manning? And you know I've said this. Were you the best quarterback in franchise history as far as I'm concerned? You get to wear what you want. And on top of that, if Olivia Munn likes it, works for me.
Wait, did you just call him the best quarterback in...
Franchise history?
Oh, you said franchise. Okay.
That's what I said.
First I thought you said NFL history. I just want to make sure I was...
Well, he's the highest rated quarterback in NFL history,
Okay.
statistically speaking.
It's summertime. That looks kind of hot, as in temperature-wise.
Hey, man.
I'm just
Did you
saying.
hear me say if Olivia likes it, it's cool?
Oh, do we know that she did?
Yeah, it's well. Moving on. The number you need to know for Portland State is 5. The Portland State football team lost 5 games by 10 points or fewer last season, and their coach, Nigel Burton, says his team couldn't handle close situations late and pointed to video games and the reset button mentality plaguing this generation, going on to say that life doesn't work that way. He talked about Mike Tyson Punch-Out.
You better tell it on the mountain, coach.
There you go with your anti-millennial stance. Go ahead.
Just saying.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, look, maybe if some of these kids actually played outside, you know, went out and, you know, interacted with people instead of video games all the time.
I played video games growing up. And look how I turned out.
That's not an endorsement.
At least I ain't get drug tested.
Look,
I win today.
I'm not the only one who got drug tested.
I win. The number you need to know for Klay Thompson, this is the number you need to know, is 5:30 a.m. He's in Spain with Team USA, and yet my man woke up at 5:30 in the a.m. for his fantasy football draft, tweeting, quote, up at 5:30 a.m. in Bilbao for my fantasy draft, hashtag dedication, hashtag don't trust the auto pick.
See,
Might want to keep that in mind when you donate. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Just saying.
you were going to say what I donate to
my building fund. Okay.
Mike, as I said, you better hope. You better pray to the
Let
God of skinny pumps.
me tell you something, bro. Let me tell you something. If you beat me in fantasy football,
Make a bet, please.
blank
do